The regular meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, November 9th, 2020 will be called to order. I will be giving the invocation as soon as I find it. And join me in that, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So tonight's invocation is going to be a poetry reading in honor of Veterans Day on Wednesday, 11/11 at 11. I'm wearing my poppy. You can get yours from the American Legion post on Forest Drive. It is some verses from Flanders Field. I will be doing it in my best Mel Gibson accent for Gallipoli, a poem by John McCrae.
Flanders fields where poppies grow.
In Flanders Field, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing. Fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from my failing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break face with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field. If we could just take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And please take a moment on Wednesday at 11 a.m. to remember the sacrifices of our veterans. We're not only commemorating their service, but we celebrate their contribution to our nation here in the home of the U.S. Naval Academy. Thank you. Now, please join me.
That's one of the most moving poems I think I know, especially when you read it slowly like you did. It's really thought-provoking, and it brings out the foolishness and total tragedy that the First World War particularly was. Thank you for doing that tonight.
I mean, those guys just ran into ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. They sure did. That was it. They just ran into it. Nobody really cared to change strategy, to change anything. But
okay, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to
the republic
which it stands,
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
justice,
liberty, and justice for all.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Here.
Alderman Payon?
Here.
Alderwoman Pendell-Charles?
Here.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Present.
Alderman Gay?
Here.
Alderman Shannemeyer?
Here.
Alderman Savage?
Present.
Alderman Arnett?
Present.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended to include R-60-20, Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability, Jacqueline S. Guild, on first reader. Could I get a motion?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, we're going to call the roll on this. Sorry, Regina. Please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Gay?
Yep.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon,
Aye.
Alderman Pendell Charles,
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson,
Aye.
and Alderman Shandemeyer.
Aye.
You, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is approval of the consent calendar. The consent calendar was provided to everyone, including the public, on the website.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the consent calendar, but I'd like to ask that O4620 be removed.
I'll second.
So we've got a first and a second on that. Up for discussion. Alderman Tierney. Oh, Regina, sorry.
I was just going to say Alderman Tierney has her hand up. So.
Yeah, I before we accept the agenda, I wanted to move that we remove SA 20-21 from the consent. It's the grant fund for the police department, just to explain to the public.
Okay. Got that, Regina?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion, a first and a second. All those in favor, with a show of hands, please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is legislative actions. Proposed motion for the reconsideration of O3819. Majority vote of 6 members is required.
And can I get a motion to reconsider O-38-19?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, could we have some explanation as to why we're reconsidering and what aspect of this legislation we're to reconsider?
Who would like to go first on that? Ellie?
Yeah, just for clarity, are we discussing the motion to reconsider right now, or I thought the discussion would be after the motion is approved?
This is a discussion of the motion to reconsider.
Okay, understood. Okay. The last vote, legislative action, there appeared to be some confusion on what we were voting on and the respective participation of the aldermen involved. I thought, and there was also, from talking to my colleagues, a little misunderstanding about the legal implication of the remaining aldermen on the commission and what they do, and where does the approval of the community development block grants go. That discussion was not really resolved, and it left 2 committees sort of at equal level with unclear objectives, all in the interest of affordable housing. But we just want to make sure, we want to revisit it and get it right, so how we can achieve these goals that I believe we all agree on. And we can discuss further if the motion is approved to reconsider the vote that we had.
You, Alderman Gay had his hand up next.
Yeah, I would just ask that my colleagues, stand with their original vote. The city attorney made clear in our last meeting, I believe that is why we all voted on it, that there was no issue. To my knowledge, that's what I recall. I'm not 100% sure. I've asked the public to go look back at our votes when we voted on that bill. I understand after speaking with now Delegate Shanika Henson, that the reason that she decided to split the 2 committees is because she found that they, again, had shared no similarities, and that was important that the work be divided. She also found it important that prior to, under Alderman Kirby, the committees were joined together. And once she separated them, it provided oversight from our colleagues on this committee. And then we could bring forward recommendations to the full council, something that other committees like the committee that Alderman Payon chairs, like the Environmental Matters Committee, share similar traits where the council, as the Annapolis Education Commission, share similar traits where an alderperson serves or acts on the board. Again, I don't recall any legal issues. I believe that is why we all agreed to vote on this. I understand that some colleagues may have time constraints, and that may be an issue, and that there may be also issues as it relates to funding and proposed plans, but I asked my colleagues to stick with the original decision that they made.
I'll get the city attorney to explain or expand on that. I mean, my position is what the city attorney advises us to do. So I voted against it last time to not conflict Alderman Gay. So
Mr. Mayor, it passed up.
Mr. Mayor, you have before you get too deep into the actual discussion of the motion to reconsider, before the council is just the motion to reconsider and not the substance of the reconsideration itself. So you may want to vote to do that, and then you could get into a detailed discussion of the actual reasons for the reconsideration. You need 6 votes to reconsider.
Okay. Well, Alderman Annette, I might just push the vote through and we can have the discussion as we get to it.
Well, I do want to speak to the vote rather than the substance.
Okay.
I will confess to myself having still some confusion about what actually we did, in particular what we accomplished with Alderman Gay's amendment number 4, and that is the reason why I'm supporting reconsideration. It doesn't mean that we can't go ahead and end up having the same vote. I just would really like to get some clarification. I think I heard in the Rules Committee something different from the city attorney than my understanding of what the city attorney said at the council meeting. So I think many of us are more confused than opposed. So I would really urge that we have a reconsideration and sort out that confusion.
Alderman Payon, I'll take the vote after you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam City Clerk, I understand it was a 6-3 vote. Can you tell us who voted which way?
Well, actually, he was saying you need 6 votes to pass it. It's a majority. That's what the city attorney was speaking to.
I understand that, but what was the vote last time? It was 6-3, and who were the 6? Who were the 3?
You're going to have to give me a moment to find that information for you.
We have that information. It's on the attachment, which is the ordinance, the signed copy, and I can speak to that if you'd like. There were 5 votes for the mayor, Alderman Tierney, Alderwoman Finlayson, Alderman Schandelmeyer, and Alderman Gay. Nay, Alderman Payon, Alderman Savage, and Alderman Arnett, and 1 abstention, Alderwoman Pendel Charles.
That's on the but that's anyway. Let's get it on the floor so we can discuss it. So. All those in favor of the reconsideration with a show of hands, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, do I need to call a roll on this, Regina?
If you like, I can do that. Okay. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Gay?
No.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Pendel Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Schandelmeyer?
Aye.
So the motion to reconsider passes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Alderman Gay?
I look forward to working with my colleagues and anyway else elsewhere outside of housing. The Affordable Housing Task Force is doing great. And in the future, I hope that you'd help with votes like that when it comes to affordable housing and issues related to crime. Thanks.
And Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Well, now you're in the discussion of whether or not the reconsideration is going to go forward, Mr. Mayor.
We need to vote on
We had that vote.
Yeah, we need to vote to adopt Odess 38-19 on second readers. Can someone move that, please? We need to move it to discuss it, right?
So moved.
So this gets it on the floor. Now we're on it for a vote. We need a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. City Attorney, do you want to lay it out for us or not?
I have a question.
Well,
I don't understand what Alderman Gay was saying that time. Can you repeat what you said, Alderman Gay?
Did we or did we not just take the vote to? I thought we already had discussion. We discussed on everything. I thought that was the case.
No, we had
when you made some remarks, I didn't understand. I didn't understand.
I thought we had discussion already. And my hope was, I thought that it just failed 7-0 and that we were moved.
No, the motion to reconsider was moved, and the City Attorney advised us to save the discussion for when we're actually voting.
Oh, okay. I thought he said save the discussion when we were taking the vote, and I thought you voted it through.
No, we voted through a motion to reconsider.
So now what's before you is to adopt 038-19 on second reader, and you have proposed amendments as well. So
all these amendments are live again, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes. So the bill is alive and the amendments are alive on second reader. Okay.
Alderman Gay has his hand up.
I will vote even to the side of caution to this, Mr. City Attorney. If you could just tell me if there is a problem with us serving or not serving on the committee. If there is, I think I've made my case, and I think my colleagues at this point, we've heard this out. If there is an issue with us serving on the committee, could you explain that, please?
Well, I think you want to, maybe it might be more prudent to take the vote to put it back on the table, because right now 039-19 is not on the table until you vote for it for second reader with the amendments.
Oh, sorry, Regina, I thought we did a first and a second on that. No.
So we're waiting for the vote now.
But we have discussion before the vote, right?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is that where we are, Regina? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So that was just my question. Is that if it is, if there is an issue, could you explain? I thought that it was cleared up at the last meeting, but it was a little bit confusing to my colleagues. If there is I'll vote to even in support of it. I just want to kind of figure this out.
Well, hopefully everyone's had a chance to read it now. As I'm looking at the signed version, and what we talked about in the previous discussions was removing the executive functions out of the committee, which was done. And so the gravamen of the whole committee's authority is in paragraph C. And there is nothing in that paragraph C that presents an issue for us legally with respect to who's serving on the committee.
Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My confusion arises because of amendment number 4 from Alderman Gay, which does lead to all the strikeouts in C, which is the administrative work that this committee has done in the past, or at least that's my understanding. And what was, when we discussed this at Rules Committee, the rub for having aldermen, because there was language in there about overseeing the provision of city services and allocation of money. If we take that mission out, I guess I'm starting to have some problems understanding what the difference is between this committee and the Housing and Human Welfare Committee. And with the Savage Amendment, it seems to me that we did create the parallel structure for the Environmental Matters Committee versus the Annapolis Environmental Commission, and the parallel with the Financial Advisory Board versus the Finance Committee on the City Council, and a whole host of other parallel structures where we have councilmatic committees that are called for here in the code, and then we have citizens-only committees that meet and advise us, but we don't participate in. We can attend those meetings, but we don't participate as official members. So it feels to me like what we've done is to take away the guts of this housing community and housing development and made it much more like the Housing and Human Welfare Committee. And that's, I'm admitting that's my confusion, and I'm open to get a better understanding of that. But that was what I felt was the confusion. I know was the confusion for me.
So, Mr. City Attorney, if you just can give a little clarification. There are a lot of hands up, and this is how I've seen them come up. Alderman Tierney, Alderman Savage, Alderwoman Rhonda Pindell, and sorry, Brooks, you're number 4. Thank you.
Yes, sir. When the draft legislation was originally proposed, it included, and still does, included citizens and council members. Our office had a legal issue with the composition of the committee, while also including activities that are more under the city manager, like review of personnel and other implementing or executive functions. And so we propose that this committee be one that advises and proposes and initiates policy discussions with the council and other respective committees, so that it would not have that issue because council members were serving on the committee. And so that was done in the amendments, and the legal issue was removed after that. So then it was before the council in a way that passed muster from our office with the composition as it is. So when it was signed, it took out the implementing and executive language, but the composition remained 3 council members and the citizen members. So it's fine as written and signed in our view, but it's subject, of course, to your desires.
And do you mean the amendments, Mr. City Attorney?
Yeah, all the amendments that were passed did the kinds of things that we thought should be done with respect to the formation of the authority of the committee.
Alderman Tierney?
Well, there's a little confusion on the amendment number 4 is the one that I believe it was the Savage amendment that made the commission not include the alder persons, and I believe we might need to address that separately. But I wanted to just provide some background. I've been on both committees for the last couple of years, as well with Delegate Henson, and this is. And I think what we created a couple of weeks ago is sort of a compounded error in the sense that we have a code requirement that is you could almost say illegal because it gave executive authority to this housing commission that would review the community development block grants. Okay, so that's issue number 1 is where does that go? My understanding from talking to Teresa Wellman is that there was really she never understood 23 years ago why this was put in the code. She does the grant issuance herself, and she can do that all on her own, which leaves this committee. And then the question is, what do you want this committee to do? And especially in this urgency of housing. And I'm just telling you broadly, and I met with the city attorney to figure out how to make this whole, is what we created a couple of weeks ago were sort of like 2 equal committees, and one of them being sort of a discussion group, maybe calling other, people before it, et cetera, and then you have the standing committee. And my goal in reintroducing this is to model something that we know is successful, to agree with my colleagues, Alderman Gay's objectives. And I believe that if we keep the standing committee, which is fine, the 3 aldermen, et cetera, the review legislation, what have you, and we have this housing commission made up of residents, maybe some of them can come from the housing task force, and they can meet and discuss issues similar to the Annapolis Environmental Commission, which Alderman Savage knows all too well that they are very heavily involved. They have opinions. One of them appears at each standing committee meeting and reports on mutual objectives. It's a model that works. And that's my concern. Is a couple of weeks ago, we left, you have to have an objective, and it's not really clear on what objective we were agreeing on, setting up this sort of new committee with a new name. So I'm still not sure how to make it whole. My suggestion was to approve the ordinance with one amendment, which was the Rob Savage amendment, which was to remove the respective aldermen and have it made up of residents who therefore pick their chair and co-chair, and aldermen are free to go to that meeting in whenever it is held. So that's what I want to get out there and discuss. If that makes
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to agree with Alderman Arnett and some of his comments. I'm not clear on the difference between this commission and our housing committee. And I also haven't heard a compelling reason as to why alderpersons should serve on this housing commission. When we don't serve on any other commission, with the exception of one rep to the education commission, which they don't vote on anything that comes before the council per se. But also, this housing commission has 3 alderpersons and is also chaired by the alderpersons. So if an alderperson can't attend, this commission can't even meet. It says in the code that they can only meet if so called by the chairs, not by the citizen members. And so I feel like this just is not, it doesn't seem like good governance to me. We're to have the council serving on this commission where we appoint the members, but we're also serving with them. It just, it's why should this be different from any of the other committees that we have, commissions that we have as well? As Alderman Arnett went through the Environmental Committee versus the committee, the Transportation Commission versus the Transportation Committee. You can go down the line. Again, I don't know why this should be different. And I do think there are many reasons to fix this. And I think one of them is I think we need to have, these bodies need to have a certain amount of independence. Yes, we do appoint the members, but we also need to be able to make sure we empower the citizens that are appointed to these commissions to take these deep dives that we just simply don't have the time to do. And so if we remove the council, that would be freeing up the space to get 3 other experts in affordable housing on this commission. And I think that'd be a huge value to us. And I think it's a benefit to have them meet without the council there at the 3 chairs at this commission meeting. If we're looking to get good recommendations, they need to feel like they have that independence and not going to feel that pressure from the committee, the council committee serving on there. So again, I think this is just a matter of being consistent. We need to make sure also this is a matter of being efficient in terms of empowering these citizens to give us recommendations, and also, again, just good governance. So when it comes time, I do want to move we have a number of amendments, not just mine, but we have some others from the rules and government that we'd have to move again that were passed last time. But again, I think my amendment number 5 was, I thought it was good. That's what I was trying to say,
but he said it much better.
I thought the amendment number 5 was a good compromise. Yes, it removes the council members from the commission, sorry, but it would allow the 3 housing committee council members to appoint somebody. And that is a bit unique from the commissions, but I thought that this was at least a bit of a compromise. It would still give our housing committee power to appoint people directly to that commission. And yeah, so that's why I'll be moving my amendment again. Hopefully it'll pass this time.
Alderman Pendell Charles is next, then Alderman Chandlemeyer, then Alderman Gay. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple questions for our city attorney. Mr. Lyles, are you on? I got a couple questions. I'm just trying to synthesize all of this. We talked about the AEC, Annapolis Environmental Commission. We talked about FAC, Financial Advisory Commission. We talked about transportation. And all of those comport with the legalities that we need to run city government. Is that correct?
Yes.
They all are fine. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you point by point. Amendment number 1, does that comport with the legality?
I'm not looking at amendment number 1. Let me see.
That's the Rules Committee.
Let me see. I have to find it, ma'am. Hold on.
Okay.
Yes, it does. It's fine. It does.
Okay. Fine, yes. How about amendment number 2? Does amendment number 2 comport with those other 3 or the ones that we had? Does that comport with legality?
Let me pull that one out. Yes, ma'am. That's the one where we actually changed the authority. We constricted the authority to administrative, to policy initiatives. To policy search.
Okay. How about amendment number 3?
Amendment number 1, 2, and 3 were taken together.
Okay. So those comport with the legality. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How about amendment number 4?
Amendment number 4 was the one where we talked about this being a policy commission, and that was fine.
Okay. What I'm asking is that aligned with the legality for Annapolis Environmental Commission, Financial Advisory Commission, Transportation Commission? Those are the 3 we kind of been talking about. Does that align with that?
Well, I'd have to look at each one of them separately. I wouldn't be able to opine right now unless you give me a few minutes to look at each one.
Okay. All right. Let's skip number 4. How about amendment number 5?
Amendment number 5 is fine. I mean, it wasn't anything that was something that would make this a legal commission. 5
so what
really just took the commission, the alderpersons off of the commission.
Okay. So what you're saying is amendment number 4 may not align with what we normally do within our city commissions with citizen and alderpersons representation. Is that correct?
That's not my comment, ma'am. My comment was that this 03819 as the one that was before us was creating a new commission. And we reviewed the commission's duties in the amendments and in the structure, and we found that it was not legally permissible to have the commission engage in certain executive functions with the council people, not only on the commission, but in charge of the commission as chair. We were not making any comments. There were no other comments, questions about other commissions. If you put those other commissions in front of us, we'd be happy to review.
Okay, what I'm asking is amendment number 1, amendment number 2, amendment number 3, and number 5 all comport with legality based on possibly the other commissions that we have right now. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. I don't. We didn't make a decision about. We didn't make a decision, ma'am. We were asked about this particular proposal. We did not look, and we do not look at how other commissions are established. We looked at what the law provides and comports with. As some things that happen in the city, we are not doing them properly. And so we only get what we get when we get it. If you ask us to look at everything, we'll look at all of it. But right now, we only look at what we're asked to look at. And
so what now I'm going to ask, so amendment number 1 comports with legality based on the city attorney's office. Is that correct?
Well,
that's what I asked 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. There was nothing. Yes, it was a legal amendment. Yes.
And number 2 is a legal amendment. Is that correct?
Yes.
Number 3 is a legal amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Number 5 is a legal amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How about amendment number 4?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Alderman Chandelmeyer?
Yeah, am I unmuted? Excellent. So I'm going to explain kind of my rationale for why I am changing my vote on this from the previous meeting where we had this on there. Having said, when I originally voted on this, I had not sat in on a Housing and Human Welfare Commission committee meeting yet, and I had not sat on a commission meeting yet. Having learned more, sitting in on both, I do believe that they fill different functions, but I believe that the commission is a better job as a citizens task force commission. And that is the explanation for why I am changing my vote. And that's so Alderman Savage's Amendment 5 would make it that. So I would encourage my colleagues to support Amendment 5.
Thank you, Alderman Finlayson, then Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am sure that anyone watching is as confused, if not more so. I have a couple of questions. The first one is for Alderman Gay. Alderman Gay, this is your legislation, or at least it began that way, I thought. What objective are you trying to accomplish with this legislation?
The objective was accomplished. We changed the name. That was the initial objective by Alderman Rodriguez and myself. Of that, it was sent to Rules Committee. Everything was fine. And then remember, Alderman Savage pulled it back because he said he wanted to take the alder people off of it. So that started way back in the summer. We had, and I'm not calling you out on that. I'm just going through the process. We had several meetings following that in Rules and City Government, and it was pulled off the agenda, then it was added back. And the issue was that the alder people's participation at some point had crossed the line. In order to fix that, we removed it in Amendment number 4. That's why the city attorney said, yes, now it is legal. So this blurred line that everyone is, or that it appears to be created is not there. It is legal. There were other reasons mentioned as to why the committee should be diminished, but I won't go there. This is legal. That I wish my colleagues, Alderwoman Tierney and Alderman Brooks Chandelmeyer would have came to me ahead of time, said, hey, this is an issue that we think is here. Because it clearly is not there based off what the city attorney is saying, and based off of what he said at the last meeting. And just a really quick point, there is no, if we remove the older people from this and the Cdbg funding process, there would be no oversight in that process. It is a blimp in the budget that is noted, but there would be no participation from the older people to have a say so. And what the CBDG structure and process is like in our city. And we enjoy participating in that and having, just as the mayor makes recommendations and how they would like to see the funding dispersed, the older people on that committee should make recommendations on how that money should be dispersed. And I think that by removing us, there is no oversight. There is the public hearing that is open for 30 days. But then again, it's just a blimp in the budget.
So the answer to my question is you wanted to change the title and you wanted to make sure that the aldermen maintain their positions on this committee. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thus giving the aldermen 2 bites at this apple because they get to weigh in during the committee process. I'm talking about Cdbg funding because that seems to be what we're talking about. And Cdbg funding comes from the federal government, from HUD, and we locally determine how that funding is to be utilized within the city. Just to be clear, so the community will understand, this is not money within our city budget that we allocate, but this is federal dollars that we as a city have to figure out how to allocate. 85% of which goes to capital projects, 15% goes to non-capital projects. So your objective is to change the name and to keep the council members' participation at that level. And when the funding comes to the full council, as it does for our final approval, then the council members get a second bite at it to weigh in on whether they agree with the funding as proposed by the committee. You're shaking your head no. What am I missing?
Ma'am, that would be the equivalent of the finance committee making recommendations on a full budget and then it coming before the full council and them having a second bite at the apple. There is no second bite in this apple. We make fair recommendations just amongst the full entire council. We have great dialogue and participation amongst the full body, including the members of the public. There are no second bites out of the apple at all. I think it is fair process considering that the mayor's office or the city manager's office or whoever makes recommendations as well about what should be done with that Cdbg funding. And it is considered, and it is something that we have considered at our last meeting.
Okay, so
it appears that maybe everybody's taking a bite off the apple.
So fair example of the finance committee, okay? So your amendment passed when we spoke to this legislation on the 12th. The amendment that did not pass was amendment number 5, which was the Savage amendment.
To remove the alder people, yes, ma'am.
To remove the alderman. So my next question is to City Attorney Lyles. Alderman Gay's amendment 4 passes legal proficiency.
Yes.
Okay. As well as Alderman Savage's amendment 5.
If it had passed, it would have been fine.
So give us your recommendation, because I think you were recommending the council should not be part of the committee.
Yeah,
and the deliberations of the use of the Cdbg funding.
Well, as it was originally drafted, the two conflicted with each other. Once the drafting restricted the authority of the commission to policy and to recommendations and strategy and not to implementing, then it became something that we could support as legally sufficient.
Did the amendments make that doable?
Yes. And so the amendment 5 was to remove the council members, but that, we didn't have a legal issue with amendment 5. The council decided not to pass amendment 5.
I'm still not clear on which of these amendments.
Alderman Finlayson,
wait, let me ask Alderman Savage, City Attorney Lyles. Which of these 2 amendments would you prefer from a legal perspective? Let me ask it that way.
Well, since they are all legally sufficient, it's really on the council. There's nothing that gives us legal concerns with any of the amendments that were passed. And amendment 5, which was not passed, also did not cause any legal concerns. Now, if the council decides to do something by adding more duties and authority, that are outside of the policy initiative area into implementation, then we would need to have a longer discussion about that. But since none of that is going on here, the decisions are now squarely within the council's purview for the amendments that are before you. 5 was not passed, it failed, but it can be before you now if you just so desire, or any other amendments that you want to take up.
So without 5, council members remain on the committee.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
I thought I heard you say that that was not a preferable, and maybe we shouldn't use the term legal sufficiency. It was not a preferred way of conducting business.
Only as the 03819 was originally drafted. But the original draft of 03819 was modified by Amendment 4 to make it legally sufficient.
Okay, and 4 passed.
Yes.
During the initial discussion.
Yes, and then 5 was added after the discussion or review of legal sufficiency. And then when we were asked about it at the council meeting, there were no legal concerns with the Amendment 5 as proposed by Alderman Savage from a legal perspective. Okay.
Alderman Gay, did you have a question for me or for the city attorney?
No, I just was to your point. It really has boiled down to whether the council will vote. This bill is as legal as it comes. Thank you to our great city attorney and his great staff. We fixed the loop. We fixed it wrong in it. To your point, the questions were asked greatly. Was there an issue with it? Yes, there was. There was an issue with this legislation and the older people serving on it. And we fixed that through the amendment passed by the council. It now boils down to the council's personal preference of if they would allow the older people to serve on this body. There are no legal issues with us serving on this body. There is no double dipping to the points that you've made. Everything seems to work fine. I would just ask that you and anybody and all my colleagues support the legislation as it stands. There are no legal issues. This is boiled down to personal preference and time.
And the legislation stands with Amendment 4, Amendments 1 through 4.
That is what you passed, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what is before us now is reconsidering all 5 of the amendments?
You can reconsider the whole thing, whatever you want. Basically, 03819 is inclusive of amendments 1 through 4. So think about it that you're reconsidering 03819 as signed, which includes the 4 amendments. So take the amendments out right now. The only amendment that did not pass by vote of this council was 5. So that would be a new thing to 03819 if you chose to go down that road or do other things with the commission that were not considered previously.
Which is why I asked our city clerk to give us a copy of the signed legislation, which clearly includes the first 4 amendments. So our discussion now is all about whether we will approve what was Amendment 5.
If that's where you want to focus your attention, that's fine. Okay. You can do anything else you want to do.
Don't give us all those options because we'll take them. Thank you. Done.
So there are a lot of hands up. Okay, Alderman Gay has just spoken. Because are you okay? The next hand up was Alderman Arnett, then Alderman Schnellmeyer, and then right behind that I see Alderman Tyranny and Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to read what the Housing and Human Welfare Committee assignment is. The Housing and Human Welfare Committee, this is the council standing committee, shall consider issues of housing and matters affecting the general health, welfare, and quality of the life of the residents of the city of Annapolis. The Housing and Human Welfare Committee shall review all proposed amendments to Titles 8, 10, and 18. The Amendment 4 says the Affordable Housing Equity Development Commission shall review and provide comments as necessary on housing and community development projects initiated by the city, and study and advise the city on strategies to improve housing stock in the city, and recommend policy initiatives and changes in the laws and regulations to accomplish the objectives of the City Council in affirmatively furthering fair housing. So in my mind, the amendment is a subset of what the Human Housing and Human Welfare Committee does. What it does by amending it, though, is to take away the parallel construction we have elsewhere with council standing committees and citizen committees without council members who advise the council and, in fact, advise the various city council committees. So it feels to me like we actually diminish the role. It is true that this language is more narrowly focused on housing and not on the rest of the welfare considerations, but now it's focused on that with council members chairing it and members of it rather than citizens, including some of the citizens, and I have heard very good things about the Fair Housing Task Force, some of those citizens being on it and advising the council. So I believe, Alderwoman Finlayson, you did accurately characterize it as two bites of the same apple. And that seems to me to be inefficient and less desirable as a parallel construction for the way we do things with the environment, with finance, with education, all of the other committees, and that parallel construction where we have citizens unencumbered by the influence of council members on those bodies, it seems to me is something that is worth keeping. So I would prefer that we drop Amendment 4 and adopt Amendment 5 and keep the Housing and Community Development Committee without alderpersons.
Alderman Chandler.
I yield my time. Everything that I've had to say or ask has been brought up by previous members.
Alderwoman Tierney.
I was going to, let me just be quick because I want Alderman Savage to speak. It's a question for the city attorney. With what we passed, I want to make it clear that with what we passed 2 weeks ago, who has the authority to review and approve, recommend the CDBG grants the way we left it 2 weeks ago? Where is that?
It's not with this committee. This committee doesn't have anything to do with grants.
Okay, so we're left with a committee that does, I think this is what Alderman Finlayson was trying to ask, is what are we left with? What does that committee do? So that's where I have to go back and say, let's try to find, use a model that works. I think we have to agree, because clearly it's that classic, if you don't know where you're going, no road will get you there. We're totally floundering here. So I look for advice to say, how do we legally structure this so that we have a committee made up of residents that make their recommendations to the standing committee and then in turn to the city council, instead of two committees just sort of juggling at their respective responsibilities. They just, all in the interest of affordable housing.
Yeah, the commission, if you wanted to do that, I think Alderwoman Finlayson is correct. This issue then boils down to whether the commission will have council members on it and chairing it or not. That's the decision before you. And it's less legal now than it is intent, desire, policy, management of commissions and committees. It has nothing to do with the legality of the particular bill at this point.
So what I'm asking you then is, how do we do that? Yes, every amendment is legal in and of itself, but how do we proceed? Do we vote on the ordinance and then go over every amendment over again? And
well, here's what you could do. You could modify 3819 by amending 3819 to remove the council members. That would be a simple amendment while 3819 is on the floor for reconsideration. Or you could just say we'll adopt Amendment 5. So 3819 will pass with Amendment 5. That probably would be the cleanest way to do it. Because that way, it's like going back to the beginning. Rather than pass 3819 without 5, I move that, for instance, I move that 3819, Amendment 5 be passed. Pass that motion, then 3819 becomes a commission without council members, and then you pass that 3819 as amended.
Okay, so after discussion, perhaps we can make that motion to have this a whole, to make it whole again. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Alderman Savage, then Alderman Gay, then Alderman Paone had his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In my mind, again, it's not really a legal issue. I think it comes down to, again, good governance, but also how do we ensure we get the best recommendations on affordable housing for us, for the policymakers? Because as it stands now, we won't be able to refer legislation to this commission for review because we serve on that commission, right? We have 3 members on that commission. That would be a conflict of interest. So don't we want a body of citizens independent to be able to review legislation just like we do with all these other things, like we've mentioned, transportation, environment, finance? I mean, that to me, that would provide a value to me, and I think to us, because I'm certainly not an expert in this stuff. I don't know if any of us really are on the council, but that I think would be important to do. So I think we should set aside the legal questions. We already know all the amendments are legal, and just figure out what do we want to do to make sure we get the best governance and the best recommendations moving forward. And I think that means give them the independence, open up those slots for more citizens, allow the citizens to run the thing, and allow us to refer legislation to them.
Thank you. Alderman Gay was next.
I think we have a great group of professionals, over 40, from different backgrounds from across this city, working very, very hard right now as volunteers to make recommendations to you, sir, and this full body as it relates to affordable housing, as they've been doing since April throughout the COVID-19 crisis, meeting in person, meeting via web, Zoom. They're meeting tonight. I think we have that. And this committee will help once those recommendations are submitted to the full council. We can help with those recommendations and make sure they make it to the full council so that they can be up for a vote in January as the legislation, the affordable housing legislation suggests. That is the purpose of this. And I think it's important that the council is on that as oversight, and they are included in that conversation. They make the recommendation back to the full council, just as anything else would go. I think it works fine. We have that system right now. They are professionals are working on it right now. The city of Annapolis are in part and will pay professionals to create a document to submit recommendations to you that would have to be then sent to that committee.
Thank you, Alderman Pound.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know about my colleagues, but I feel a little bit like I've been spun like a top, going round and round on these things, but I think I finally have it straight. And Alderman Gay may have answered my question, but I just wanted to make absolutely sure, when you keep saying residents, composed of residents, we're not just talking about public housing residents, we're talking about residents of the city in general that make up this committee. Is that correct?
That is correct. Actually, and right now they're within we have more public housing residents on the affordable housing task force drafting recommendations.
Well, I don't mind public housing residents being, on this committee. I just didn't think it was appropriate to have them exclusively on. And what?
No,
you said that before, and I just wanted to make sure I understood.
And that is a good point. The chair of the housing authority or the residence chair serves on this committee. So it's not like we are not pulling all of the best and brightest together on this committee, including all the people. That's to say that we're eliminating the individual's ability to participate. We have trouble filling it. We have vacancies right now. Come serve a committee, Alderman Savage. We need help.
Thank you.
Alderman Annette.
I think Alderman Gay is absolutely correct that the task force, by all accounts, is doing a great job, and I look forward to hearing from them. But they are a task force. That's a temporal body. That is not a commission. It'll go away after the task force work is done. This is a permanent commission that we want to go on over time to be a parallel body to the Housing and Human Welfare Committee of the City Council. And therefore, I think that it is important to remember that instead of creating two bodies, a committee of the council and a commission of also the council, the way it's structured now, it seems to be redundant, and it runs the risk of not getting unfettered input from and it's not just citizens. That task force is full of experts. They're citizen experts. I don't think all of them live in the city, but they're experts, and they're experts that are working without influence of the council, but working towards influencing the council when they get their work done.
But Ross, to your point though, yeah, we need those experts, but it is a short-term task force, and that is why they're comfortable working there. To ask them to serve on this full body for years is a stretch. We are short members now. We have people resigning all the time. It's a task. It's a task to talk about and to have conversation on community development and make recommendations to the council. Some people have time for it, some don't, but I don't think that's the reason that we dismantled the committee. And I don't think that there is this, need for or there's this lack of experts on the committee that Alderman Savage is making the illusion of. I mean, every argument that has been put against this committee has been defeated because it's legal. We don't have the people. We don't even have the people on the committee right now. So it's not like we're short on volunteers or experts, as Alderman Savage is suggesting. And to your point, or to any points that were made earlier, the council is not overbearing or making any control. We're conversing. We're a part of the committee.
So the problem still remains. All of the commissions that we have, the citizen commissions, are always needing to replenish themselves. It's actually one of the good aspects of it. You get new points of view, but they are independent of us. Their job is to influence us, not be influenced by us. And I think we really serve ourselves well, as Alderman Savage said, to allow that unfettered work to go on. We're always going to have the last say. None of these commissions or committees have the final vote. It's just us. We'll always have that ability. And I think that trying to keep this parallel construction of council standing committees with council members on it and citizen commissions with citizens on it is a very healthy thing to do. And that is why I favor I would really take your amendment back, because I like the broader mandate of this commission as is in the code, the things that are being struck out. And I really think that the narrower focus that you put in with your amendment can be a charge of the Housing and Human Welfare Committee. I think that will be a focus of that committee for a long time. Affordable housing, workforce housing are not going to go away.
That's like me. I think that the audit committee could be a charge of the finance committee. We don't need members serving there.
frankly, I think I would support that as well. I would take all alderpersons off of the audit committee.
I mean, you're just no, but some things you can't do that just because it's your opinion. You've been here for a long time. It works, and it's legal. It's legal. That's my last point.
Ross and Duancho, so I will mute myself.
Alderman Savage has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to move my amendment 5.
Second.
Okay. So I think we've argued this point. So what's at stake is whether we want councillors on this committee, whether we want to standardise them, commission or not. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion?
Are we voting on Amendment 5 in and of itself or with the base ordinance?
Yeah, the motion already has included in it 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is that right? Not Regina? Okay.
So right now we're just voting on Amendment 5.
Okay.
Let me revise that a little bit. You have in the law 3819. If you do nothing, it's there. So in my view, to make it easy, you can modify what you've already passed. So if you want to just to clarify and make it easy to understand what you're doing, because if you do nothing, 3819 stays the way it is. If you, in order to reconsider 3819, you can do a lot of different things, but you can just vote to accept 3819 with one amendment. And that is the one we're calling Amendment 5, right? I think to make it clear, forget it, calling it Amendment 5, right? Call it what it is you want to do. So we accept 3819 with one amendment, this. And that motion is likely titled removing council members from the commission.
Okay, so that's what's been moved by Alderman Savage.
Yes, that I would agree.
Alderman Paone. All those in favour of this, please, with a show of hands, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, the ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that we withdraw Amendment 4 and return the language to the original Section C. The Affordable Housing Committee, Equity Development Committee shall plan and implement the housing and community development projects throughout the city, exercise all the powers and functions of redevelopment and urban renewal, subject to the limitations of the law, manage and improve the housing stock in the city, coordinate the federal, state functions that shall be assigned to it by the city. All policy, program, and administrative actions taken by the committee or commission, whatever we're going to call it, must have the concurrence of a majority of the membership as provided in the preceding subsection B of this section, and must be admitted to the city council for their consideration and approval, and strike the new language in Amendment C, which was placed in there by Amendment 4.
Alderman, you left out the last sentence. The committee shall review and approve all personnel involved in housing.
Sorry, yes, I did. Yes, yes. So in other words, it's restoring the old C and dropping the amended C.
Can we achieve Alderman Gay's name change with that? I'm sorry, as that was the original.
Yeah, no, that is earlier in the document. So it is a commission, not a committee.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Okay, Alderman Gay, you had your hand up.
Never mind, my bad. My bad.
Alderman Savage.
Yeah, Alderman, I appreciate, I think your intention with this is to broaden the scope and to strengthen, I think, what you see this commission doing. But my concern is that, to my understanding, that language you would be restoring is the very language that the city attorney did have a concern about the legality of, because it gets into doing, I believe what you had said, Mr. City Attorney, it would be the administrative functions. At least that's what I recall from Rules and Government when we were talking about this. So I guess, could you speak to that a bit, City Attorney?
I think by withdrawing council members, that language goes back to being legal, because that language includes both administrative executive functions and also policy advisory functions. But that is the work that Teresa Wellman, if we leave this language in the way it is, Teresa Wellman will be left to her own devices, and she's perfectly capable of it. I have no problem. She's been doing it for quite a while now, but it would leave her to own devices without a commission to advise her, because we've struck all of those things that have been the traditional role of this committee/commission.
Sir, yeah, if you're asking me the question about the legal sufficiency, yeah, when you remove the council members, then the other language is no longer violating.
Okay, thank you.
So if you broaden the language and remove the council members, it's legally sufficient.
Okay.
Director of Planning and Zoning, Sally Nash, has left the football to tune in to this meeting. What would you like to say, Sally?
Sorry, I just wanted to say that I think there was a legal issue with the personnel sentence in the last part of that description. And
yes, correct.
I thought there was other issues that the law has had with that description as well, but I apologize, I don't remember exactly. But I know the personnel issue was a problem.
I knew there was a reason I didn't read that.
Sorry.
So, Mr. City Attorney, can you frame it for Alderman Arnett so we can achieve what he's trying to achieve, or do we not need?
Well, I think the other issue was just the mixing of the administrative and the advisory functions.
Yeah, now we're in a close call for us. One, because I don't have that language in front of me to be able to ascertain properly for you. If it's being read into the record, then it is what it is. But I would have to review the original language to determine whether or not it's legally sufficient. Some of it's
in the amended signed version.
Okay. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Let me take a look at it. Let me go to it, because I have the signed version popped up here on my computer.
Page 2.
Yeah. I'm looking at it now. I'm pulling it up here.
Regina, is this on the floor? I'm sorry. Has this got a second or not?
Yeah, I think Mr. Mayor did. Housing stock coordinate federal, state, private resource toward development, perform other duties and functions, assign all policy program administrative actions must have the principal majority voting membership. Review and approve. Yeah, this is a close call for me, and only because I have some experience with administration. And you may have some issues because some of this is within the purview of the city manager already. And if you're trying to adjust some of those duties, it probably is a longer discussion. I did have an issue with the personnel issues only because of the personnel language, only because that's already assigned to a person in the administration. Some of this other material that's listed in this section may be overlapped. The city manager would have to talk about those. But from a purely legal sufficiency standpoint, removing the personnel and taking out the personnel language and removing the city council members from the commission makes it legally sufficient. Whether it's, you know.
If I could follow on, Mr. Mayor, I really want to, I think restoring all the strikeout except for that one sentence and leaving Alderman Gay's amendment, which we've already passed and so is already in this legislation, really I think is the best of all worlds. I think that the language that focuses attention on the workforce housing and all of those projects is actually very good language and language that I subscribe to. So I guess my motion would be to restore all the strikeouts except for the sentence that has to do with the personnel matter would really be the essence of my motion.
Okay. Have you got that? Regina had a hand up. Yes, Regina?
I think the city clerk had her hand up.
Yeah, that's Regina.
Excuse me. I just want to say, for clarification purposes, a part of the amendment Alderman Arnett is making isn't even in the legislation the way that I am used to amending a document. When we reconsider, you're starting with the first reader again and adding the amendments. None of the amendments that were previously in the adopted legislation are there anymore because you passed a motion to reconsider the bill. So that's like you just introduced the bill tonight and nothing happened at the last meeting, and you have to work it or make it look like how you want it to look. You need amendments 1, 2, and 3 to kind of make Alderman Arnett's motion work, and they're not in there. We're working with the first reader and Amendment 5. The only thing that was amended to the original version as of right now, in my opinion, is Amendment number 5.
I thought Amendments 1, 2, and 3 were in
No.
That's a reconsideration.
Nope, you start all over.
Reconsideration.
No, but they're already in the signed bill.
Point of order. I think we've done it both ways. I think the mistake was we didn't specify when we made the motion to reconsider.
Absolutely.
If you think back to the budget, when we had, was it this past budget or the one before? But anyway, we had a ton of amendments and we came back after and we ended up having to amend the budget. We did not start over. That was the point from the city manager at the time that we didn't want to start over and go through those dozens of amendments. So we reconsidered as amended. And I think that's kind of the mistake that we didn't specify tonight. So I don't know which direction we should go with this, but if it's easier just to reintroduce everything, I think that's not too difficult to do.
May I, the suggestion I made before, I understand the formulaic way of getting something passed. However, the council can do what it wants with the language that it wants. My suggestion is to do it very simply by adopting in the motion the language in 3819 and making amendments to that. Because if you do it that way, it's less confusing because the public and everybody already has 3819 in front of them as signed. So if you say your motion is, I move that we adopt 3819 as signed previously with 1 or 2 amendments. To me, it makes it easier because now everybody's operating from this one thing that's in front of you right now, as opposed to starting from the beginning. Because if you do that, then I would say, let's go all the way back and redraft everything if you're going to do that and include all the amendments in something that we can put before you. I don't think you want to do that. So
we're going to go with as signed. So
that's your starting point. Yep. Now, how do you want to amend as signed?
It's been voted on, right? And now Alderman Arnett is proposing some adjustments to that.
My new amendment is to work with the budget, the ordinance as signed. We've already made one amendment, which has to do with the alderpersons. The amendment that I would make is, if you look at the as signed, if you look at the strikeouts on page 2, number C, if we unstrike all of that with the exception of the committee shall review and approve all personnel involved in housing and community development activities. So we're returning the old language. We're keeping the Alderman Gay amendment, which adds a lot of focus to the housing, and we're dropping that one sentence that the Office of Law has found problematic in terms of personnel matters.
Might I suggest this wording? The council moves to unstrike in paragraph C all that was stricken except for the last sentence.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Thank you. That makes it clear.
Can I get a second, sorry, on that motion?
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay, and then Alderman Finlayson had a hand up, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, that's my other doorbell. I'm not very comfortable with the motion. I want you to look closely at the language of the original text that we're talking about unstriking. We are empowering the commission, not that they didn't already have this authority, to plan and implement the housing and community development projects and exercise all the powers and functions of redevelopment. You know, and then it goes on. This sounds like an administrative task, not an authority that we would give a commission. The new language that Alderman Gay has proposed in Amendment 4 sounds to me much more applicable to a commission that we're talking about. Some group that would review, provide comments to, and advise the city council. So, you know, the difference is whether we're empowering this commission to make decisions that I think are staff decisions or even council decisions. And somebody's really persistent. And
listen, if I could recommend you check what's going on. No.
It's not at my house, it's at my father's house. So
okay.
And so you know, I think that's the decision we have to make. Do we want to empower them to make these types of decisions as far as housing and community development, or do we want them to give us recommendations? I think I personally would prefer the latter, which would be the Gay amendment.
So can I withdraw my motion then?
Sure.
I withdraw. I think the seconder, which I believe was Fred, would have to agree to that.
Yes, both you and the seconder, yes.
I withdraw my motion.
Oh, I'm not going to withdraw no, only kidding. I mean, we haven't spent any time on this, so why don't we?
Alderman Tierney has her hand up.
Yeah, I know. Now you know why I reintroduced it, reconsidered. May I make a motion to approve the ordinance 038-19 with only amendment, the Dwan Gay amendment number 3, I believe it is, and the Alderman Savage amendment, which number 4, sorry, I stand corrected, and the Rob Savage amendment number 5. Can I move that piece of legislation?
Second.
So not 4, but 5.
No, 4 is already in it.
I think
it's just adding 5 to the signed legislation.
Okay.
I think
4 and 5.
had 5 because we voted on it as it was signed.
4 is already in. So you're just adding 5.
Yep.
Just doing whatever 5 asks you to do.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm whole with that.
A lot of discussion on this.
I thought we voted on that already.
No.
Yeah, like.
But we want to do it again.
Not together.
Yeah, we have to vote on it as amended, right?
Yeah, this is the whole piece of legislation.
Do we have to vote on the whole thing as amended now?
That includes amendments 1 and 3 from the last time?
because we voted on that. We voted to say that we are voting on the signed 03819, which included the 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've now added 5. We need a motion to amend O-38-19 on second reader, I believe.
As amended with Amendment 5.
Yep.
Yes.
That was Ellie's motion, was it not? And I seconded it.
So, yep.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yep, we'll take that. It was really close. Okay, so a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye with a show of hands. All those opposed say no. Unopposed. Okay.
And let the record reflect the grimace on Fred's face.
Is there a motion to vote on whether the amendments to O-38-19 are substantive? No.
Yes.
Okay, we need a second for that. No second. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt O-38-19 as amended?
So move.
Third reader, right, Regina? Yeah. Yep.
And Mr. Mayor, let me make sure that I got this right. It's amendments 1 through 5, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion on third reader?
So move.
Need a second. Thank you. This will be a roll call.
Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Gay?
No.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Schandemeyer?
Aye.
That ordinance passes.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O-3820, building code updates.
So I move ordinance 3820.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Housekeeping here. Okay.
I move the Buckley amendments 1 and 2.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Is there a motion? There's a motion to amend O-38-20 moved and seconded. All those in favor with a show of hands say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is there a motion to vote on whether these amendments are substantive? Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-38-20 as amended on second reader?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Is there a motion to adopt O-38-20 on third reader?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Gay?
Yes.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Yes.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
And Alderman Schandemeyer?
Aye.
Just like the way it sounded, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R-4420, building code updates fees.
Okay, is there a motion? Thank you. Second.
Second.
These are, a roll call on this, Regina, is that right?
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Gay?
Yes.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Schandemeyer?
Aye.
That resolution passes.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R-4520, building code updates, fines.
Is there a motion to adopt R4520?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Madam City Clerk, again, please call the roll.
Mayor Buckley,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon,
Aye.
Alderman Pendell Charles,
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Schandelmeyer.
Aye.
That resolution passes.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is legislative action on first reader, beginning with R6020, Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability, Jacqueline S. Guile.
So move.
Okay, there's a
Second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Alderman Gay.
Yes, thank you. Would the, if the city attorney could answer my question, is the pay a recommendation of what you think is, or do you think that that is a good estimate?
That's up to the mayor, sir.
I'm just saying, on a city of this size, is that something that I'm just?
City manager, better.
The city manager.
I'm sorry, the city manager. Yeah, is that something you could suggest?
Yeah, that's the typical range for our director positions. That's her current salary as a director. So her salary is not changing at all with the new position. And that's well within the range for our other directors.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye with a show of hands.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Thank you. So we need a motion to suspend the rules to allow passage of this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
It needs unanimous it needs to be unanimous. So if it doesn't get that, we don't move on.
Unanimous dissent?
Okay, we got a first and a second on that. All those in favor, with a show of hands, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, no one's opposed. Is there a motion to adopt R-60-20 on second reader?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Yes.
Alderman Gay,
Saying?
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon,
Aye.
Alderman Pendell Charles,
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Schandelmeyer.
Aye.
And that resolution carries.
Okay, so while you're here, I can administer the oath. Jackie, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Been here for a long time already. And the whole environmental community knows you well. Will you please repeat after me? Please say aye and state your name. I
I, Jacqueline Guild,
do swear
do swear
and affirm as the case may be
and affirm as the case may be
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and that I will
and that I will
be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland. I might have messed
be
that up.
faithful, bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland,
And that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment, oh, it's a little freezing here. Jackie? We have an issue. If we can't get better.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yep. Jackie is frozen. We have done pretty well virtually, but this hasn't happened that often. So I might delay this, Mr. City Manager, Mr. City Attorney. Let me see if Jackie can log back in.
Yeah, back in.
Okay.
I'm here.
Maybe let's not do it without, let's do it without audio. Without video, sorry. Can you hear us well? Maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So the audio is good. I'm going to start from the top. Please repeat after me.
Okay. I, Jacqueline Gild,
do swear
do swear
and affirm as the case may be
affirm as the case may be
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution and laws thereof
and support the Constitution and the laws thereof
and that I will
to
the best of my skill and judgment
to the best of my skill and judgment
diligently and faithfully without partiality or prejudice execute the office of Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability.
Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability.
That's a mouthful. Well done. According to the Constitution.
According to the Constitution.
And laws of this state.
And laws of this state.
And the Charter and Code of the City of Annapolis.
The Charter and Code of the City of Annapolis.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. If you'd like to say a couple of words, Jackie, please. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. This is a great honor, and I'm really looking forward to get started on this position. And we have a lot of work to do, and we have great challenges we face with a warming climate, but also great opportunities in the city of Annapolis to meet those challenges and make the city even more resilient and sustainable. So I look forward to working with everyone in the city to advance the goals that we need to achieve in order to make the city even greater.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is an item that was removed from the consent calendar, supplemental appropriation SA 20-21, Grant Fund Police Department, Maryland Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention, Revenue.
Can I entertain a motion to approve SA 20-21?
Second. So moved.
Second.
Okay. We brought this up for discussion. Alderman Tierney.
You're on mute. Alderwoman Tierney, you're on mute.
Got it. So this appropriates $100,000 from the governor's office of crime control and prevention, and it will fund personnel and contract support necessary to help increase the availability of data-driven predictive analytics that can supplement and enhance existing proactive strategies. And the word predictive policing was used. And I thought, I gave you a heads up because I thought maybe Chief Jackson or somebody from the police department could explain to the public what this predictive policing means. And since, it was a sort of a big chunk of money well spent, but not really knowing what predictive policing is. I don't know if there's anyone here that can answer that.
It is
Public Safety Chair.
There is.
A grant was chased down by this office. We've worked closely with Alderman Gay on this and the police department. Lieutenant Miguez, would you like to jump in?
Yes, I also had Patty Norris from the police department. Sorry I'm so dim in here. There she is. Once she gets her video up and running, I'll let her explain. She's been coordinating everything with the application on this and kind of spearheading our meetings with the University of Maryland. So I'll hand it over to Patty.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so this is a predictive policing program funded by the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention. It's basically using a bunch of different data sets, including data from our record management system and also other data throughout the city. They got case search data, public information data, crime statistics, environmental factors, a bunch. It's very sophisticated. It's a partnership with the University of Maryland. The Salisbury Police Department was the first site, and the city of Annapolis actually was selected as the second site, hopefully, to do this predictive policing. The goal is it kind of evolved out of hotspots and that type of thing. But it's a little more detailed than that. It's a problem-solving policing and to be able to allocate resources more effectively is ultimately the goal.
Thank you, Alderman Schneidermeyer.
So is this basically just CompStat, like what Baltimore had?
Kind of, but it's more than that. It is so technical. I pulled up the write-up from GOCCP. It combines CompStat and hotspots. It combines almost all of these different analytics, spatial regularity, that kind of thing. It's combining all of these analytics into one predictive policing model. So yes, in a sense, it is CompStat, but it does mapping, GPS, a bunch of different stuff.
So CompStat led to some pretty severe profiling issues, though, in Baltimore. We have guarantees that this won't do that?
So it's actually a grant through, it's a partnership with the University of Maryland. It's really in its infancy stages. So I think that the project is just beginning to develop now. And our hopes would be, or the governor's office hopes would be down the road that we would be able to put these models into place. But I don't know. Lieutenant Miguez, can you speak to that?
Yes, I think the negative aspects from that were publicized about Baltimore City's CompStat were more about the pressure felt by personnel from above them in their chain of command as far as actions that they needed to take on crime that was happening and increases in crime. This grant and the program that they're working on, as Patty said, is crunching numbers to give a more informed strategy for providing public safety. And I would say it's not a top-down analysis of this crime or these crimes have increased. Why has that happened in your area? What are you doing to address that? It's more of, as she mentioned, Salisbury State University was used. They wanted to expand the amount of data that they had and possibly the type of data that they were crunching within this program. And so they looked to our jurisdiction to be able to expand the capabilities of their program. So I understand your concern for it being compared to CompStat, but I don't see it. I see CompStat as a lot of other things going into that than just the data analytics, if that answers your question.
somewhat. Basically, my concerns is one, the issues brought forward by CompStat with violating civil rights and profiling. And the second is, I think this is kind of the direction of policing where it will end up occupying into pacification, which I think is a failed policing model. I am suspicious of this program. I know our officers are very good, but I just have a suspicion of this.
Understandable. I also just want to mention that I think there are more things on a personal level that go into the negative aspects that were publicized about CompStat, as opposed to just the data is just the data. It's how you use that data and how you interpret it to inform you in the pursuit of public safety. That is where the errors in judgment can occur that result in the stuff that you're talking about, that as opposed to just the data itself. Alderman Gay, I believe you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I was just made aware of this today by our African-American community liaison, and we had a brief conversation about it. And I think to Alderman Sheldemeyer's point, predictive policing will lead to predictive arresting in predictive communities. And we pretty much know where this data would lead, officers to believe there is crime, which would then lead to an influx of police activity in those particular communities. I think is what he's getting at, and I think what has been proven before. My question in regards to the grant is this a duplicate of a job of the stats analyst that was already hired later this summer, or is this taking the data and diving a bit further?
I would say again that it's more of the state through the Governor's Office of Crime Control Prevention and the University of Maryland trying to flesh out their program for analyzing crime data to see how much they can expand that and how they can make that more effective, as opposed to just the task level that our crime analyst is doing. Obviously, she is looking at that. She's the human analyzing that data and looking for the trends. I think the program that the University of Maryland is trying to improve is, what brings the title of predictive policing to it, which is a program running those numbers and seeing where are the spikes, where are the commonalities temporally and geographically, and there may be other points that they're looking to try and align in order to be a more, I guess, informative analysis. There's always some struggle between how much are computer programs, analysis programs able to match or compete with human analysis.
So I guess this may be a question for the chief, and I, again, appreciate your time on this. And I'm not, just trying to undermine the role of police in our communities. I'm not saying that we don't need assistance with policing, but how can it be assured that with the data and with the trend in data and what it would lead to, as you mentioned in Baltimore, there was incentive. How can we be ensured that there is not incentive within our police department, or that there is just not, there's not, an individual incentive to, follow the stats and, arrest or cause issues in certain communities? How can that be assured here in the city of Annapolis?
Well, I think it would. I think I could speak for the chief in that we wouldn't be holding people to stats and just numbers. He's always said that that it's more than public safety is more than just numbers. Numbers are a part of the story, but they're not to be the sole driving reason behind the approaches to ensure public safety. And I, you know, he would probably expound more on that than I have, but I know that that's not his goal, is to crunch numbers and tell people to go after the numbers. Alderman Savage.
I'm going to leave that to Mr. Mayor. You're the chair. Who are you calling on next?
Yeah, mute, Gavin.
I think Mr. City Attorney might be just pointing out that we are just voting on whether we take the money now. Is that what
No, I was raising my hand because I've had some experience with this kind of thing, and I'd like the Office of Law to be a part of the models that are used for legality and constitutionality. One of the problems that we see with these kinds of models is the people that put the data together can be skewed based on biases that are not uncovered until later, when the policing strategies, become problematic. So one of the things we must do when we do this is look at the constitutionality of who is actually putting in the data, how are they developing the data sets, the data points, and what kinds of bias that might be implicit as a part of the thinking that goes on in predicting. We have to be very, very careful as a city in policies that push the police to predict and usually followed up rather than with community services or prevention models, policing models that could be problematic. So I'd like to get a chop on that if we ever get to the point where we're looking at the data sets.
Absolutely. Alderman Savage?
Yeah, I was going to suggest, I think this needs a lot more discussion, more than we can provide tonight, because I think we need to get, I think it'd be nice if, I think this should be withdrawn, and we should get a full staff report and also more of a discussion at the committee or some other council, maybe at our next meeting, just because, this is, I'm just doing a quick Google search myself here, and there's a lot of information to go through. There are some concerns. I'm looking at Columbia Law, political science professor there's a whole couple books dedicated to this, how it can lead to profiling. And so it is, in terms of factoring in prior offenses and anyway, I think there's more that we need to discuss about this. I'm not comfortable proving this tonight.
Alderman Pendell-Charles and Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lieutenant Miguez, I have a question. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and oftentimes we see a rise in domestic violence cases for the obvious reasons. Women can't get out, especially if we have a lockdown. Could this be used as a tool to look at resources, say, for instance, from the YWCA or the House of Ruth? Could it be used for that, for those issues as well, to see where we could place resources if we have, say, a spike in domestic violence cases?
It could be used for that. I suppose that I guess what you're really asking is whether we should be approaching geographically certain communities, correct? Is that what you're asking? Because that, I would think that if you're getting down to that specific level, then what you're getting out of it would be numbers increasing, decreasing, and geographically, and yeah, I guess what you're saying is that, or what you're asking then is that it would be whether they're clustering in certain areas or repeat offenses at same or similar locations in order to address that.
Correct. Could you use that as a tool to say, okay, now we have to target community A because we see an increase, and I'm just using domestic violence cases as an example. It could be some other types of cases where we would want to target resources for women in that community. I know at one point, this is just kind of a sidebar, we had seen an issue maybe about a year or more ago where there were certain communities where domestic violence, there was a spike. And I was just wondering if we could use it as a tool to say, we either get resources from the Y or House of Ruth for that problem.
Yes, I certainly think it could be used for that. Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Annette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank our colleague, Alderman Schondermeyer, for bringing this to our attention. When we discussed this at the Finance Committee, none of these potential underlying concerns came up, so I appreciate the heads up on that. I have two questions. One is there a time sensitivity to this? But two, and maybe a more politic question, I think that the governor's office, and I hope or I wonder if there weren't some of our senior elected officials at the state level who tried to steer this money towards us. And if we spurn it, if we don't face some other considerations that may be as bad as some of the concerns about exploring this. This is an academic model. It's from the University of Maryland. I don't believe the University of Maryland, which is my alma mater, would be wanting to sanction things that have a discriminatory or adverse effects to it. Certainly that would be my hope, that they wouldn't do that. But I do wonder if there's a time sensitivity issue here and whether there's an issue of kind of biting the hand that feeds us. I don't know who directed that we be the next in line to be part of this program, but I hope it's not one of our friends at the state level.
Patty, do you know more of the ins and outs as far as the time frame and deadlines? Are we on any sort of...
So the grant was due to start October 1st, and it runs until September 30th, 2021. It hasn't started yet due to it going through the proper channels here. So we are into the first quarter of it. I don't know if they grant, I don't think they would grant an extension. I'm not sure of that. And I believe that the request came from Mr. Glenn Fusen, the director of GOCCP, to the city of Annapolis.
Potential liabilities. I wonder if the potential liabilities are so great that we can afford to delay and we can afford to spurn what I assume is a friendly overture from the state level.
So I got four hands up. I saw Alderman Savage first, then Alderman Finlayson, then Alderman Gay, and then Alderman Tierney.
Yeah, well, again, I do want to thank Alderman Schondermeyer for bringing this up. This certainly flew under my radar until you mentioned that. Just again, looked at my research I'm doing tonight here on predictive policing gives me great concern. I mean, even ACLU, NAACP, and various other organizations. I'm looking at schools and MIT. They have concerns about that the algorithms used in predictive policing are racist and that they can lead to discrimination. So I think this is something that we need a lot more discussion about it. Otherwise, I'm not going to support it tonight without some more assurance and discussion. And I mean, I don't know, was there anything else that was discussed? Was this reviewed by the Public Safety Committee? Just the Finance Committee? Well, I think that, I'm not the chair of that committee, but I think
it did not come from the Public Safety Committee.
Okay. Yeah, I'd feel a lot better if it did go through.
That was my recommendation/question, if approved by the chair, of course.
So I just had Alderman Finlayson next, then you, Alderman Gay, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Arnett makes a good point. Mr. Houston is an Anne Arundel County native and a friend of the city. And with his oversight with the University of Maryland's educational bent on things, and with our own staff, you know, using their professionalism, I think we know what to look for in case there is something that would send us in a different direction, such as profiling. I just think that we can at least accept this grant. And if we find that it is not working, we reject it. But if the chief is aware, you know, there's all kinds of predictive policing models out there. And I think, you know, we just haven't done a lot of homework on what other models are. We only know what's being presented to us for our model. And we're not the first city. And so there is some predictability as to what the outcomes will be. And I'm not talking about from the crime perspective, but from the level of professionalism and analytics, I guess, for lack of a better description. So I would hate for us to turn this away, not knowing that there are going to be negative impacts. And if there are, then we can put the skids on it immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gay. Then Alderman Turney.
Yeah, sorry to speak out loud, Mr. Mayor. If I could we just, if we put it to our next Public Safety Committee meeting and then bring it back to our end of the month meeting and just add it to the legislative items, of course, if that's okay with our chair.
I mean, I think that obviously there's some discussion to be had. So I would support that. That doesn't, a few weeks is not going to kill it. I mean, we're already into the quarter, right? Let's give it a tiny bit more analysis. We know Miss Patty would never do anything wrong. She's amazing. So, so next was Alderman Tierney.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And thank you, Lieutenant Miguez and Patty for coming out. And I'm sorry for picking subjects that are delaying our meeting here, but I just need clarity on what this is exactly, and sort of in line with what Alderwoman Finlayson said. If it's just data collection, if it's just personnel to gather data, then I see that there's no harm in that. It's really the implementation of that data. Is that a fair analysis of what this appropriation is for, in that we could have a stopping point on implementation?
Yeah, the first stage really is the gathering of the data, us providing data to the academics at the University of Maryland. We're working with 3 academics in their School of Criminal Justice there. And then I think the predictive policing, I think it's a rollout model that is happening. But I think the first point is the gathering of all of the data points, including different data points, shot spotter, those kind of things, other things that we have in the city currently. So this is the first step in the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Charles, sorry, and Alderman Chandler. Thank you.
Mr. Gerald is our city manager. Would you like to weigh in on this to some degree?
Yeah, I agree with the mayor completely. I think this needs a little bit more discussion, and I think that the Public Safety Committee would be a great place for that. I think this kind of flew under all of our radar, and I think it needs. I just think it needs more vetting and more discussion. Make sure that we are comfortable with accepting this 100,000. My understanding is that it's just an academic exploration of the data that we've collected, but we just need to make sure, and I think more discussion will be valuable.
The other question is what kind of penalty is there if after, in the middle of the second quarter, we decide we want to as Alderwoman Finlayson said, put the skids on it, is there any penalty or surrounding that?
I don't know the answer to that, but we can certainly ask before the public safety meeting if that puts this grant in jeopardy if we don't meet some certain time frame. So we'll find that out. We'll talk to both the University of Maryland.
What's the possibility of having Mr. Houston come before the Public Safety Committee meeting?
Houston, yeah. I can certainly check, and perhaps even maybe the project coordinator from the University of Maryland as well.
That would be great.
That might be a good idea.
Okay.
Alderman Chandler.
Thank you, Ms. Patty.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to thank Lieutenant Miguez and Ms. Norris for bringing this forward to us. Despite my objection to the program, I do think we are going into this with noble intentions, but you know how things go. Sometimes good intentions pave the road to hell. So we just got to make sure that we don't accidentally cause any of these problems in profiling or discrimination. So that's why I'm kind of got my haunches up towards this, but I do appreciate the work you guys are doing.
So Alderman Gay, would you like to put forward a motion?
I mean, I'll support Alderman Schandelmeyer's motion to, my bad. So
I would like to make a motion then to put this forward to the Public Safety Committee.
And I'll second that.
And can we get that on the docket for the next council meetings with that or not, Regina?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Say it again.
I would like to put the grant forward in front of the Public Safety Committee, just so we can review this and make sure that,
and then have it back on the docket at the next council meeting. Is that right, Regina, or not? Doesn't work?
This is an open invitation to everyone to join the next Public Safety Committee meeting.
Regina?
Yes.
Okay, so where is that going to put us? So first regular meeting of December we would come back? I don't think that's that big a deal at this time, is it? Patty, do you?
No.
I mean, a couple of weeks, a month, sorry.
Yeah.
Alderman Gay?
Yeah, I do. Now I do have concern. I mean, I guess that's not too far away, but would we then lose the opportunity just for the, even to just use it as suggested, as the Alderwoman said, for domestic violence assistance? I guess we'll find out sometime this week. Okay.
Say that again, Alderman Gay. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying if that is too far for December 9th and then to wait till the next meeting, I was just asking if we would lose the funding even to do as you suggested with like looking at programs like Ruth House and all of that.
It shouldn't be. I think it should be fine. I think it's Monday the 7th. So can this be taken up at the next council meeting after Monday the 7th, Madam Clerk?
That would be the meeting I went on. So,
okay.
I mean, I think it is important for public safety to see it. That should have been done.
Certainly.
Okay. So a motion.
Ms. Patty, whoever you can have from University of Maryland, it's an open invitation, but of course, run it by the chief as well as Mr. Jarrow as well.
No problem.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor with show of hands say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Schandelmeyer. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney.
And Alderwoman Tierney.
Please present the next item on the agenda.
This was pulled off the consent calendar 04620.
On first reader.
So 04620 was pulled off by who? Alderman Odess?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to pull it off so we could get it assigned. It is currently assigned to Housing and Human Welfare, which I'm not really sure why, but I have no problem with that. But I would like it assigned to Rules and City Government, since it has aspects of Title II, and really could also go to Environmental Matters, because that's where the Public Service Code, Title 16, is discussed. So I asked for it to be pulled off so we could get it to some of the committees that have purview over the legislation.
Regina, we need a motion for that, right?
The legislation is on first reader, so that's when the referrals are made. So you have to adopt it on first reader first.
Yep. Okay. Can you give us a motion for that?
So I move we adopt 4620 on first reader.
Second, please.
Second.
We're going to recommend that to Rules and City Government and the Environmental Matters Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor with a show of hands say, sorry, Alderman Gay, I didn't see discussion.
My hand's not up on mine.
Okay, all those in favor with a show of hands say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The agenda is completed, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
No.
I move that we adjourn.
No.
Alderman Tierney has something for good order.
Yeah, I do, and it's in regard to the past resolution on the local journalism, and I just want to just say that people's lives now, more than ever, are isolated, and we rely more on social media, and because it's more tempting and our lives get so cluttered. And that's why it's even more important now than ever that we have a local paper and local journalists that we trust. And with it comes the good and the bad. But I just want to thank you for mostly a unanimous support on that resolution. And we wish them well and success in achieving their goals.
Hear, hear. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, Alderman Payon.
I move that we adjourn.
You get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All meeting adjourned.